but none of that was to happen, and the trend continues where we kind of struggled to put the game to bed. Even though we had lots of chances, and we are scrapping our way to 1-0s, but we will take it. 7 points clear at the top of the table. Welcome, Dom.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's the most important part in the end of the day. But yes, this was the. I don't know if it was the best or the worst 1-0 game that we've ever played, but it was one of those things, definitely. It was so stressful, but it was beautiful at the same time. I don't know. We played such good football tonight. I actually enjoyed both halves. I enjoyed what we did. I enjoyed what we tried to do. Everything but score, obviously. And I think that's kind of been the story of the whole, not the whole season, but it's been a story of Barca for a long time now. We create a lot, we often create a lot, but we don't often convert those chances. But then again, some games we convert like 10 goals, well, not 10 goals, but 5 goals, and stuff like that. So it's a nice mix of emotions and stress and beauty and all of that. But that's football, I guess. But yeah, 3 points, Dev. 3 points.
3 points, 7 points clear. And yeah, I mean, we have often overperformed our XG massively. In most of the games of the season, I would say we have overperformed the XG. Today we underperformed it, so it kind of balance out everywhere what you see. But yeah, incredibly critical that we had this buffer of 7 points up front. Madrid face Getafe next. That's never easy for any team facing Getafe. So you just don't know what's going to come out of what. And at this moment, given the state of the players, given the state of injuries, I mean, every inch of buffer will matter and count, given that we have the finals coming up this weekend with in the Copa del Rey, and then we have 2 really tough games away with Inter. So let's talk about the changes, right? Let's talk about the fact that I don't think anybody considered that Flick would actually start Ansu or Hector Ford, but he did. Surprised many people. But that just goes to say 2 things. One, squad harmony is so important. We saw how visibly unhappy they were last game on television, and I think Flick took it on himself to fix that and gave them that opportunity. And we'll talk about whether they proved themselves or not. But what do you make of that, Tom? And
Definitely
can
a
they play
surprise.
a little bit more
Yeah,
in
definitely.
the remaining seasons?
Yeah, we'll see about that one. I'm still not sure, but definitely a surprise. I Before the game, there was a report that stated, okay, Ansu is starting. There was like a 2 hours before the game. There was some reports saying, okay, yeah, he's in the starting lineup. Like, has decided to do that, and I was like, no, Fati and me have the same chance of starting a game for FC Barcelona, and people couldn't wait to quote retweet that post and say, "Oh, Dom, see, he's starting after all. You were wrong." But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that he got a start, but I wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't expecting it, to be honest with you. Especially since we talked about this. We talked about La Liga being the cup, the championship, where Flick is not going to take many risks. But seems like, when he does take risks, he just likes to go all in and do these things. And to be fair to Flick, even though this was a rotated squad, we played some of the best football we've played this season. Not some of the best football, but we play really, really good football this game. So I'm pleasantly surprised. And I think Ansu Fati himself, I've kept tweeting about that as well. He was really, really good. I really liked most of what I saw from Fati, and that's why I said even last time, or when was it, when he last played. I can see the usefulness of his profile. I can see how he can actually give this squad something. Now, obviously, a lot depends on how he actually reacts on the pitch, how mentally sharp he is, how physically sharp he is, because being fit and being match sharp is completely different. So imagine what he could do with more minutes. Now, this does bring up a question. Now, if Fati doesn't play for a long time, then when he does play, he's still good. Why isn't he playing more? Because a player that we saw tonight, I am 100% certain that he can be useful. Maybe not critical, maybe not a player to start games, but definitely a useful player. Now, why is that player nowhere near the squad, even though he can be useful? That's the real question for me, Dev. Because is it the wages? Are the club trying to get rid of him? I don't know. But that player
Probably.
that we
That would be
saw,
the only thing that comes to my
yeah,
mind, that
exactly.
he's on a
Yeah.
fairly high wage, and he's not a differential player anymore. He's good. Like today also, he was pretty good. But again, there were these couple of chances which a differential player would score, and he didn't. And I'm not criticizing that. He played really well. He was quite sharp. He played better than most people would have expected. which means he's
Hmm.
doing things, as Tom
Hmm.
said, right on the in the training pitch. But I don't think he's going to be differential. And for Barca, who are really pinching their pennies, and we know that, they will want people who can really make that difference when they invest that kind of money. And I don't think they're going to get that from Ansu. And the only way that they have decided probably is that maybe politely push him out or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's why he has never been seen around the first team. But for sure, I mean, that's a player that can play games, that can be used for rotation, that can be brought in substitution, and he's good enough. No questions on that. But I think, yeah, finances would be probably the only way. Or he had some issues, or his family had some issues with the board. There are many things that are happening inside the club that you don't know.
Right.
Last season, I think some of the comments made by his family were maybe a little bit anti-club, whatever. And Barca is a strange place to play, anyways. So I don't know. It can be any of those reasons. But yeah, today he played well. Can he be used in the following games? Probably. Will he be? No idea, honestly. But even with this, I would think his future is away from Camp Nou than in.
Yeah, probably. Probably, I would still say so. Mostly because of those wages that we mentioned. We might be wrong, but and yes, we always keep hoping. Yes, maybe Ansu is salvageable, and I think he is. The profile of the player is definitely someone that you can build something on. Can you build a player that's going to be there for the ages, that's going to define a generation? Probably not anymore. I don't think that ship is still there. That's not a possibility anymore. Probably, but I keep saying that like that guy whenever he plays, you can see that there are things that you don't lose as a footballer, right? There are things that you do lose when you don't play, when you get injured, but there are things you always retain. And Ansu has many of those things, and the amount of football that he generates, so the tight space link ups that he did, his first touch, the layoffs, all of that, the combination play in tight spaces was excellent, and then he moved well, and he was in good chances again. Couldn't score, unfortunately, but then no one could score tonight for some reason. There was so many chances that was more difficult to miss than score, and we missed them. Luckily, the 3 points are still there, so that's the most important. But yes, we keep missing these things, and Lamine Yamal with that one on one as well. It, you can't miss those, right? I just feel like you can't miss those, especially now when every goal is a difference, make a difference between winning the title or not winning the title. Obviously, I'm a bit exaggerating here, but it is. Every goal will be so crucial now, and we can't keep playing with fire. But at the same time, we played such good football that we have earned these misses, so to speak, as well, because we have worked so hard to even get those chances in the first place. But yeah, that's kind of my takeaway. But it's tough. It's tough because the game was great, the football was brilliant, but yeah, we have to for this end of the season we have to put our finishing boots on. That's the only thing that
Yeah, but I don't think, like, I mean, this is a trend which we have seen now for what, 5 or 6 games we have struggled. So
yeah.
it's not like a sudden thing. There's obviously something
No,
that's
no, no,
driving.
no. But now it's more crucial to put those chances away because now there's no margin for error anymore. There's just no. There isn't. That's the thing.
But I don't like. Do you really think that will change? I doubt that will change suddenly with the situation as is. I
No.
think the
Yeah.
players, the fatigue, the mental condition. You score goals when you believe you'll score goals. You score goals. It's just basically that's how it goes. And I think it's been challenging. And there are at least 6 more. I think in La Liga. I think it's La Liga is still not sealed up.
Mm.
um, Cup finals are cup finals. You got one chance or two chances and you'll bury them, and that can make the difference between winning a cup or not winning a cup. So I think, yeah, I think we will see this trend. I think we'll see more 1-0s than 5-0s for the rest of the season. That's just normal because it's coming to the end. um, Hopefully somebody takes on the owners and the responsibility, given that now I think Lewandowski is also safely, we can consume that he's going to be away for about a month, if nothing else. Probably that's what we are reading. So he's out. Rafinha, like, he overperformed widely for majority of the season, but I think now he has come back to the mean of what he has been like generally in his career. And Lamine, and we don't say it, but Lamine's finishing in the first team has never been the best compared to what he was when he was a child, player in La Masia. So those things will remain. And I don't think the substitutions, like I think Pau Victor had a couple of good shots today. It's good. He's a good player, but again, finishing can be a challenge in the weeks to come, for sure.
Yes, it will remain a thing. That's the thing with when you have Lewandowski when you don't have Lewandowski, right? I think today was the prime example of okay, this is the fluidity that we talk about when we say okay, Lewandowski can't do this, but then again, this is the finishing that we talk about when we don't have Lewandowski as well. Because the truth is, no one scores goals just the way that Lewandowski does in this team, and he's the only one that you can rely on when it comes to goal scoring. Even though he himself can be frustrating and on the ball, off the ball, in front of goal, everywhere, but he will still bang 40 goals a season. So he's the only one that does that. We keep saying this, guys, and we will keep saying that because I think it needs to be said. And yes, the team looked much different without Lewandowski. I think they did. I think you can see how much of a difference it makes to have more mobile strikers, to have more fluidity and technicality in tight spaces. But then again, maybe we can do this around Lewandowski as well while retaining the lethality as well. Maybe that's the thing that Flick will value ultimately
And that is
more
what
than
I think
than
Flick values in him still. And it
yeah.
can't be that Flick doesn't understand the problem with playing
He does,
Lewandowski.
yeah.
But the fact is, there's a guaranteed goal scorer out there who can put away chances from nowhere, and he has done
Mhm.
that 40 or 50 times
He
a
does.
season. So, and that's kind of experience you can't just get anywhere, and that's basically what has happened. So, it's a challenge. But that said, though, also the other thing, if you guys watching it, like from the 65th or the 70th minute onward, the press fell off. And Mallorca really found it quite easy to attack, and they attacked quite a bit. And those crosses and those headers, any one of them could have been much more difficult than what it was. So this has also been a trend lately in the games, if you've seen that. After the 50th, 60th minute, we are falling off in the energy, and then it's not that difficult for the other team to really take the initiative and push us a little bit more. And in these games, like Tom said, one goal is enough. One goal in 70th minute, and that's the end of the game. You can't really do anything at that time. You can't salvage the game anymore after that. So that is something that also that Flick probably wouldn't have been happy. The first half was absolutely flawless, as everybody has seen. And then thank goodness we got that goal from Danny Olmo. I don't know how he scored that goal within like that centimeter of gap that he had, but thank goodness he did, and he got that goal. But uh, majority of the second half, Barca were not really there in terms of the dominance. Yes, they played great football, fluid football, but Mallorca had found it easy to counter.
I think that will always happen with in the later stages because of the way we play. It simply is because of the way we play. But I think tonight we looked far more fresher than usual, and I think you can see that the subs actually have a lot more in the tank, obviously, because they don't play as much. So this rotated team, if nothing else, you can see that a fresh Barca still can offer a lot, even though the subs are obviously of lower quality, so to speak, and they are. They Barca as a collective are still very good, and I think one game of rest for Kunde, one game of rest for Frankie, one game of rest for any one of those players makes a massive difference. Even Pedri tonight, Pedri looked like he was playing a completely different sport to everyone else. He was just galaxies away from the next best player on the pitch, and that's what you get if you give Pedri some time to breathe sometimes because he was accumulating those games. He was actually starting to look a bit fatigued, and even on Pedri, you could see that he's not really himself. And then he gets a bit of rest, and now he's reset his whatever mechanism he has in him because he's not human, obviously. So now, if Flick can do that more often, I think he needs to do that more often. It just goes to show you how much of a difference it makes when you actually try and keep those players fresh. Now, obviously, with those without rotations, you get we were dominant because we didn't rotate a lot because we were always playing our best team. We were always going to steamroll teams, but then it catches up to you. And now actually we're seeing how much of a difference it makes. So I think this is the rest of the Barca. The rest of Barca can actually do this. They can play brilliant football. Now, obviously, we didn't score many goals tonight, but they don't have to always score that many goals. You don't have to win 4-0 every game. That is also something that we are getting used to, but it's also something that you can't really expect every single time.
Yeah, 1-0s are fine. I mean, Xavi's team won 1-0 all the time, but that was a different way of playing. This team has a different way of playing. yes, it's worrying that the defensive line has been easily breached in recent matches. I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One is the pairing has not been consistent all the time. We have changed a lot. The people have for majority of the season it was set. It was Kubarsi and Inigo and Kunde and Balde. That's it. That's that. Like went with it as many times as possible, and there was a chemistry between those four, and it worked in terms of putting the offside trap in place, working it through. But lately, obviously, that hasn't happened, and we have had many a change. And whenever people change, I think the chemistry changes, the way the team changes, plays the way the team plays that changes. And we haven't been very successful with the offside traps for at least the last 5 or 6 games. And it's not just that. I think also teams have also figured out better ways of countering it, right? And watching and playing, and so it hasn't been that successful. And we always knew with the high line, if you can't execute it perfectly, Barca will be in trouble, and Barca has been in trouble. And this will not go away against Madrid or Inter as well. They will play against this, and they have the perfect players to exploit this as well. And we'll come to that. But so that problem has absolutely been there. Will it go away? As Tom said, we are giving rests to people. Key people like Varsi did not play today. So hopefully, when they come back, they have that much left in their tank to provide for those 1 or 2 key games that are left in the season, and that's good enough for us, and we can carry on. To your point, I think there was yes, Araujo for sure is very good for physical strikers, and there was a question that Tom, like against Inter, who would have those physical strikers, is Araujo a better bet than either Kubarsi or Inigo? And should he play with, like today he played with Inigo and Eric, and it was good. Is there a formula there from that? Because Inter will hassle us with those big, strong. They're all 6 foot plus. The entire team is 6 foot plus. They're very strong, very physical, and they'll come at us. So, but without a doubt, Araujo is our best physical man-to-man defender. But he's just not the ball-playing defender that we want to have. But you can't get everything in one player, anyways. So, yeah, Tom, what's your thought?
Yeah, I think this we've been trying to answer that riddle for the longest time now, and this question will always pop up because Araujo does give you certain things that no one else does that is undeniable at this point. Now, I think it all depends on what Flick values most, and I think at the moment I would still lean towards giving Barca more firepower than making Barca more solid defensively, especially in the first leg. I think Flick is going to want to establish dominance on the ball and be the team that controls possession and controls match tempo more than anything else. It controls the territory more than anything else. Now, in that sense, I think he will go with Enigo and Kubarsi. If both are fit, if both are rested, he will go with them in the first leg, especially. And then, if the game requires Araujo, we know that Flick is never afraid to make subs and immediately change the game if he sees a possible correction should be done. So I think that's the formula that he will go with, and Pau Kubarsi and Inigo Martinez are still, I think, still are the highest valued center back pairing that Flick has at the moment because they still execute his plan to the fullest. Because without them, yes, Barca struggled tonight. We had Araujo, we still managed to play dominant football, but you have to take into context that this was Mallorca, who were very happy to let Barca have this agency, to let Barca have this domination of the ball, and they just sat deep in the 5-4-1 and wanted to hurt us on the break. Now, Inter might have a similar approach in the first leg, but Inter are also a team that's probably going to want to have some agency in the game, a bit more agency than Mallorca did. So I think Flick will want to extinguish that as much as possible. And the way to do that is with a centre back pairing that can actually establish the first line of possession. I think that will be the thing that he will go with, Dev.
Yeah, I mean, even Mallorca had 5 people missing. Murici was not playing,
Yeah.
and one Murici would have made a huge amount of difference. The way he can, his physicality, the way he can deal with aerial balls, the kind of threat that he possesses, and Inter have players like Murici. It's as simple as that. So it's a tough one. There's no easy answer to this. We don't have the best answer for this right now, given how we are playing. But that's also to be expected. Like this has been a long, brutal season. There are young people, young kids who are
Yeah.
coming in. So if we are thinking that we'll, whitewash everybody every game for an entire season, that's just not going to happen from that perspective. So, yeah, it's one of those things, and hopefully we have enough left in the tank to just, cross it over the board and bring that through.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how Flick adapts. I mean, this is good. Tonight was a example of rotation gone well, even though it was marginal. It was easily could have been much worse, and then we would be here saying, "Oh, he has rotated too much again. That's why we dropped points." That's how football. That's how narratives work. Because now that we have won, Flick is a genius because he has rotated well. But now if we didn't win, then people would be saying the completely different things. So that's how how things usually pan out. But yes, I think this was good. This was needed, and let's see how much it actually affects other players. Because Kuhn, they got a rest, Kubarsi got a rest, De Jong got a rest. It was a really really good show, and also Dani Olmo played. He got some match sharpness, but he was then subbed off at the right time because Flick is trying to keep him safe as well. Because with Olmo, and we saw this tonight as well, Olmo can be a difference maker just as long as he stays fit, and that's it. That's it. Because Olmo adds so much, and I think with Olmo and Lamine on the pitch at the same time, and obviously Pedri behind them a little bit, you have so much magic. You have so much we have that aspect that we were missing, which is creating something out of nothing. With those three players on the pitch at the same time, you have an abundance of that. We finally have that formula or that structure that can actually unlock these blocks out of nothing, because we saw Pedri multiple times tonight thread those passes, disguise passes that just shred through the whole block. Even though the block is compact, it's solid, it's deep, it's completely parked the bus, but Pedri can shred through that with a single pass. Lamine, we know what Lamine can do. And then Olmo, if you get the ball to him in those tight spaces, even inside the area, he can create something out of nothing as well. So I think I'm very confident that even though we might not have the best combination play at all times, or maybe not the best rehearsed play or patterns in the world, we do have that magic that comes from individuality, but at the same time, it affects the collective so much because Pedri is everywhere, is at the heart of everything Barca do, and that magic kind of seeps through everyone. Now, Lamine, we know what he does, and he can be a bit frustrating in that final output thing, and yes, that will keep happening obviously until he refines that area of his player profile a bit more. But I'm very confident that these players have enough magic in them so that Barca can actually, I think we can overperform to a certain extent there, because when you can do something out of nothing, you're creating stuff, pulling stuff out of your hat. And I think we've been missing that. Now we have that, especially when Olmo fit, and now Pedri rested, Lamine potentially rested as well. So we'll see. I quite like the way that Flick has handled this, and now let's see how much of an impact can he have for the immediate games, because the immediate games are all going to be spicy.
Yeah, and yes, the final against Copa will be interesting, and whichever team gets selected, they will be tired against Inter. So there's no question that we'll have to go with our full strength against Inter, and there's no question that we'll have to go with our full strength in the final. So there's just no way out of it if they want to win, which obviously Flick does. So I think from that perspective, it would be hard. Now, whether what team? But do we go with a Hector Fort like Gerard Martin, or do we go with yeah? So let's start with that. I mean, do you see Fort over Gerard Martin in the Copa final, Dom?
No, I don't. I don't. I think to be able to play the Copa final, you have to have some consistency in your not just in your performances but also your appearances. And I don't think that Flick is suddenly going to go based on this game against Mallorca, where Fort, yes, he didn't have the easiest task in the world, and he did perform really well, but he was very much always in a dominant position against Mallorca. He was always in a position where he just had to show his offensive potential and how he interacts with in the left half space. He had Fati there as well. I think that helped as well because our dynamics on the left hand side, I think obviously Rafinha is much, much more important than Fati is for Barcelona, but you could see how having a different profile affected the whole team there and the way that the whole team connected on the left side of the pitch. Because Rafinha makes you a bit more vertical, Rafinha makes you a bit more direct. Rafinha is less combinatory in those spaces, but he's more of an output machine, right? Fati won't give you the goals, obviously, even now, especially now, he won't give you the same thing that Rafinha does. But I think in that structure, in the left half space on the left side, having Fati there combining, it made Ford's job a bit easier as well, I think. But that being said, Gerard Martin has, I think he had just has more experience he has with this team specifically, and he has gelled with the team a bit more, and especially given that Madrid will have much more offensive power, and Madrid would put Ford under a lot more stress. They would test him a lot more. I think Gerard Martin in that situation would be a more solid, maybe more dependable option. Maybe not going forward, but even going forward on the ball, he has shown some signs of improvement as well. So I think Flick will go with Gerard Martin over Ford simply because I don't see a world in which he plays one game and then suddenly he starts a Copa final. It doesn't make sense to me when looking at it objectively, but also it doesn't make sense to me in context of Flick's decision making so far throughout the season. Dev.
I would agree with you. I would agree that it would be Gerard Martin over Hector Ford, and also Gerard Martin has something that Ford probably doesn't have is his passing. He can pass very well between the lines and take things on, and that will be important. So I think yes, it will be Gerard over Ford, but I think this was more to keep Ford happy, keep the squad harmony in place that he got a chance. But we'll see if they feature against Valladolid or some of the other teams that are left.
Yeah.
But I don't see them featuring in the Champions League or in the Copa del Rey final. As of now, of course, we can be wrong, so we'll see. Inter Milan defense is not impregnable. No, it isn't. And Barca has scored across every single team that they have faced. So of course, they can score against Inter.
Yeah.
That's possibly not the problem. The problem is, can they hold against Inter? And there's where the challenge is, because they're wily, they're much more battle hardened, battle scarred than the teams that we are facing. They'll be ready for that battle. They also want to win the treble. So, and then that's a good coach that they have in Inzaghi. So that's more of the question than whether we can score against them or not. We can obviously score against them, but I think we will be vulnerable against Inter as well, given the way Inter play. And given how the squad is playing right now, it's all about moments. It's not like we can't consider this with how Barca were playing in the beginning of Jan. It's not the same, so it's different. So I think we'll score against Inter for sure, but the challenge, the fear is that can we score enough to win across two legs, right? That's basically the question. And on another point, but let's take the Inter point, Dom, from you as well before we go to Eric Garcia.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. They are not invincible, they're not impregnable. Of course, you can score goals against them. I think their defense might be a bit overrated, but then people don't. So if you look at all the teams that have done damage to Barca, even Mallorca tonight, Celta, just days before that, Inter can do all those things. Only much better, with much more quality than these teams have. Now we let Borja Iglesias score a hat trick on us, and he did score a fantastic hat trick. I mean, all those strikes were absolutely brilliant. Now Inter have players that are much better at that
Better
than
than
Borja.
Borja,
Yeah,
and probably Days
absolutely.
or whoever.
Yeah. So they can do these things that Barca struggle with, but they can do those things at a very high level. Now, does that mean that they are unbeatable? Of course not. I think Barca can suffocate Inter. Barca can do to Inter what they do to most teams, because Inter in the first leg especially will not allow that, but they will be much more inclined to sit a bit deeper and wait for the opportunities than just go out and play against Barca, because they know that if you do that, you're just playing with fire. And yes, you might score against Barca if you play an open game, because Barca also are not impregnable. They are not, this solid, undefeatable defensive line, but they will know that they will, if they sit deep and wait for their opportunities, the opportunities will come. Because Inter, if they can do one thing well, is they can play through you really well, and they do it really quickly. Inter usually go from point A to point B in 2 or 3 passes maximum, and they do it really well. The way they move in midfield to open up those spaces, so they have usually with 2 strikers, one will drop deep, it will carry the defenders across, and it will open up a huge gap for a target man like Thuram to receive the ball, lay it off, and they do have pace on the wide areas, and they will deploy cutbacks as well, which we hate. We just hate cutbacks as well. We hate crosses, and Inter Milan can actually do those things at a high level, and they can do damage. They also have players who can score goals, obviously. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, I do fancy our chances, but I do think this is a big test because Inter have all the tools that usually do bother us a lot under Hansi Flick. So we'll see.
Let's take it on the same point because we're talking about the defense, and we'll come back to Eric Garcia. But
Mm-hmm.
One of the thoughts from people watching is basically let's not start with Gerard Martin because he's a recipe disaster. And that's a common thread. So we have seen that before. But does this work? Kunde, Kuparsi, Araujo, and Nigo Martinez. Does this actually work in a final, given all the shortcomings that Gerard Martin has?
Uh, in a Copa final, I would rather have Gerard Martin there, the left back, because if we are wanting Gerard Martin or the left back to be defensively solid more so than anything else, I would want Gerard. I think Gerard Martin has done really well in terms of his defensive aptitude. I mean, obviously Inigo Martinez is an overall better player than Gerard Martin, but I would rather have Inigo down the center and using his passing down the center to get the ball to our primary targets, just forward to those center channels, and then have Gerard Martin be that extra shield on the wide in the wide areas. Because Inigo, if he has to go all the way up and be this left back that Barca usually need their wide men to be, which means going forward, bombarding forward, being a player who deploys crosses, who deploys diagonals, and then tracks all the way back. I'm not sure Inigo can do that well. Obviously, he's a great defender. He has some recovery pace, but to be able to go up and down the flank constantly, I don't think that would be the best use of Inigo. I think that would quickly drain him. That would quickly lessen his impact because he would be able to do it once or twice, and then you can lose the player that he is. So I would rather have him centrally next to someone like Kubarsi, or even if it's Araujo, we don't know, but I think it would be Kubarsi. Just be centrally, be that dynamic, that very familiar partnership that we know that they can form, and then using the way that we've been using him so far, because him and Kubarsi, they do have the understanding, they do have the connection, but they also bring you so much control from the middle of the pitch where Barca want the control as well to be. Whereas on the flanks, I think he would be mostly asked to do things that he's not comfortable with as much. So maybe, if you play that way, you have to change the whole dynamic. You would have to play with a back three essentially, I think, because if you put Inigo as a fullback or a wing back, even you just wasting him. So that means that if he plays the left back, that will essentially mean a three at the back. If you have a three at the back, that would push Kunde into a wingback position on the other side, because you can't have four players in the back line with no one going forward in the wide areas, because you lose too much. At least one of them has to be asymmetrical, right? If Indigo is drifting inside and being in the back three, then Kunde has to push up. It just has to happen, right? And then if you push Kunde so much up, you are not using him well either. So I think that dynamic would not work. That's why I see Gerard Martin as the preferred choice in that situation.
So you're not seeing a 3-5-2 in possession.
No, I don't. I don't think so. Not with that structure, at least, because then, yes, you would have Inigo, Kubarsi, and Araujo, but then Kunde would be a wing back. I don't see that happening. Or if it does happen, it's just a misprofilization of Kunde. So I don't think it's a net positive overall.
Well, I think that's a debate. That's a healthy debate. I think a lot of the fan base don't really like Gerard Martin. They don't really want him
Mm.
there. Flick likes him, has used him, and I think today also would have used him had Fort not thrown a tantrum in the last game. So I think Flick's going to go with Gerard because he has throughout the season. Um, and I think that's what will happen. But we'll see if it changes and if there's a different rabbit out of the hat that Flick pulls out for these games. We'll get to see that. But let's go back into the Eric Garcia discussion that we didn't that we.
Oh yeah.
And let's talk about Ferran Torres as well. Let's talk about Ferran Torres actually first. I mean, he's amazing season, incredible. But every time he starts, he doesn't really deliver in the same way he does when he's a sub. And today also, I think we saw there was some limitations in him. And again, this is no criticism. He's got a great season. He has done excellent for us. But again, I don't think he's a reliable R9 that you can depend on for a whole season if you don't have the likes of Lewandowski and others beside him. And I think there's a way to use him. And I think that's the only way to use him, at least in this Barca structure.
Yeah, I think when you look at it objectively and say, okay, Ferran is obviously a good player. He's been super useful, and he does have some qualities that make him an excellent striker overall. I think the basics, the fundamentals that he has are underrated as a whole in the fan base and have been underrated for a while now. Flick is platforming him really well, and Flick's system and the structure around Ferran are amplifying whatever he does. So he is also performing above his mean as well at the moment. Now, that being said, he's obviously not a 30 or 40 plus goals a season striker. He's not going to be that player for Barca. Now, if he's happy with who he is at the moment, if he's happy with being this player that can be a super sub, this player can start occasionally and give you something every time he plays, because he does. When he doesn't score, he gives you things that are valuable to this Barca side. So if he's happy with being this, then Barca should be happy to keep him. But he has to know, and I do agree with that comment that says that he has to know his limitations. He has to know that he's not going to be a long term era defining striker for Barcelona. I don't see that happening. Now, can he be this what he is at the moment? I think yes. In the right system, Ferran is always going to give you output. The thing is, he's not going to give you 30 goals, and a Barca striker needs to be a player of that caliber, a starting striker. A squad player can be a valuable player, an output player like Ferran, and he's always going to have that in his arsenal. But yes, he has to accept that he's not going to just take over Lewandowski and be Barca's number 9 every single week for years to come. That's not going to happen, probably. I don't think so.
You're pretty much right. And yes, let's now talk about Eric Garcia, because yes, he has been so reliable this season.
Yeah.
Done any role that has been given to him, kind of like the old days. Sergio Roberto played everywhere on the pitch,
Hmm.
wherever he was asked. So I Is Eric Garcia the new Sergio Roberto? Is he better than that? Is he something different? Is he staying next season? Tom, will he accept a squad role like that, where he's mostly used in rotation? But
Yeah.
boy, he's useful for sure. He's absolutely super useful. Understands the team, fits like a glove. Super relevant for a coach. But yeah, what's the Eric Garcia mystery?
I'm not sure there's a mystery to be solved there. I think I agree absolutely with you and the comment. I think he has almost excelled in every role that he's played. He's been an excellent servant to the club, to the badge, and I think he should be extended even and stay. If he, yes, I think he would accept this role, because same as Ferran, he has to know his limitations. He's not going to start ahead of a Pedri or a Gavi or a Bernal or a Casar or even or De Jong. He's not going to start ahead of those players. He's not going to start ahead of Kunde, or especially if he sign a new right back, he's not going to start ahead of that right back. And he's not going to start ahead of Kubarsi or Araujo or Inigo in the center back position. So he's not a starting material for Barca long term. But he is a very situational pick as well, where you have these games or opponents where Eric Garcia can actually play, and you can hide his flaws, you can mask his deficiencies, and you can put a spotlight on the things that he does best. So tonight, in his Kunde like right back role, he was shining because Barca were constantly on the offensive. Barca were dominating on the ball. Barca were defending on the ball. Barca made the pitch very small. Obviously, in the second half, Mallorca did manage to break through that a couple of times. And that's where you have the value of the Araujos of the world more than you have of the Eric Garcias of the world. But still, I think Eric, in the right situation, the right game state, the right environment, can be this useful player. Same as Ferran, same as Gerard Martin, for example, and same as many players that we have in the squad. I think even Casa falls in that category where you won't get the best out of him in every single game like you will from a Pedri, because Pedri you can throw in every single game, every opponent, every game state, he will perform at the highest level. But some of these players, and that's the biggest telltale sign of who is actually proper Barca starting 11 material, who is not, is can you play them against any opponent that Barca face? And Eric is not that kind of player. Yes, I agree Messi is GOAT. I agree with your name as well. I agree with your comment. he is a player that we should praise because he has been an excellent servant to the badge, but he is not an indisputable starter of this Barca, but he is a player that you need in your squad to be able to compete across all fronts. So Barca need Eric Garcia, and I think he should get the praise that he deserves. Yes, I agree.
Okay. The folks feel that he is better than Sergio Roberto. I feel Sergio
I,
Roberto is better, but it doesn't matter. But that's just funny. It's just fun. That's just banter. No problems about that. Okay. So we've been going. There's not much to discuss in this game. We could have scored many
no,
goals. We didn't. We were tired. We got away with the 3 points. Good for us. We've got a 7 point cushion against Madrid. Madrid is going to play against Getafe. Anything can happen against Getafe. To be honestly, it's never easy to play against them. So we'll see what happens in that result. But that said, though, I think for Madrid, the season is more or less over. They're out of Champions League. The league is going to be hard for them, just like it is for us. So they are going to come with everything in that Copa del Rey final. They want to win that because that's one trophy that can kind of salvage their season, what have you. Especially after they've invested in the players that they have and the big fanfare that was done. So they're going to come with everything. It's not going to be an easy match. And this is that time. These are the 2 weeks that will define how this team is remembered. I mean, I think what they've done, insane. I think what Barca has won, even without trophies, is respect, which had gone
yeah,
completely. Right, over the last 10 years, be it the Palancas, be it the way Messi left, be it the way we capitulated in Champions League, uh, we have become kind of a ridicule across the board. And I think what these kids have done is brought the respect back. People
yeah,
talk about us in a respectful manner, as a team, as a respectful manner. So I think that is priceless. Whether we win trophies or not, that's been solved. And that's huge. That's huge. And we should always remember that. However, trophies are currencies in the modern day game, and these are the last 2 weeks that will define that currency as we go in. First one starting with the game that we have in the Copa del Rey final. So whether if we win, that's one in the bag. If we don't, well, that's it. Now we have two left to play for. And that will define the legacy of these players. So we'll be back after the match against Madrid for the Copa del Rey and have a chat, and hopefully we win because that will be a good conversation. But otherwise, I would say, Dom, any final thoughts from you on the team, on the season? Because these last 2 weeks will pass just like that, and the games will happen, and we'll win or we'll lose, and that will define our season. But any thoughts from you on the overall season before we head off?
yes, definitely a success. I would agree that whatever happens, this season has been a revelation for us because we did not expect to be in the Champions League semi-final. We did not expect to be how many 7 points clear as of this moment ahead of Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final as well. But yes, it's so easy to to get everything that you ever wanted this season, but also it's so easy to lose everything because we are like 3 games away from eternity, but we're also 3 games away from losing everything that we've worked so hard for the whole season. So it's nothing's done yet. We're not celebrating yet, but we are celebrating the progress this team has made, and we are celebrating the way that this team is developing under Hansi Flick. So I think that should always be taken into consideration. Trophyless or a treble under your hand, it doesn't change the fact that this team has laid the foundations that are so solid and that should be there for the foreseeable future and should hopefully keep improving as the years pass by, and we'll see how long Flick actually gets to build this project because he has earned at least some more time. Then how long, that will also depend on the success that he brings, because you can be a Barca coach that builds for the future, and that would work for one season maybe, but if you go 2 seasons trophyless, for example, that's it. You won't get much longer than that. So he will have to start winning things, not just doing things that will eventually bear fruit. So hopefully this is the season when he actually continues the trend of winning trophies, because we do have one trophy already. It's not the biggest one, but we do have one so far, and hopefully we add a couple more because we are capable of it. We are absolutely capable of it, and I hope that will happen sooner. Well, next week actually. When is the game? Is it on Saturday? Yes. So a couple games time we get to fight for our second trophy this season, and I think we are in a better position than Real Madrid. when it comes to performances and when it comes to overall feel and strength of the team. But again, it's a final and it's against Madrid, so nothing's
It can go
gonna be
anyway. It can go either
yeah,
ways,
absolutely.
and as I said, that they will come with everything to win that
Yeah.
because that's a salvage of the season. So it's not gonna be easy. But that said, thank you guys for joining as always. 3 points in the bag. Take care. Stay safe out there. We'll be back after the game with Madrid on the Copa del Rey final, and hopefully we have happy news.